Good morning, ladies. Thank you again to Fella for opening her home. Should always be full of Torah, friends, family, amazing breakfast. Baruch Hashem. It's been a little bit because the last Monday was Shavuot and the Monday before was half term. So I'm traveling Be'ezrat Hashem today, but I said we have to make sure we have the shiur. Tazveni yom yomayim azveka Baruch Hashem. So we'll just do a few halachot and then we'll get to the parasha. We were discussing cleaning on Shabbat. She discusses over here, you have a tablecloth, it's full of crumbs. Can I go outside and sort of shake it off, knowing that all the crumbs and the bread's going to go and it's going to get animals, it's going to get birds? Am I allowed to be doing that on Shabbat, or is that problematic? Huh? Why wouldn't you be able to? Now, when you make Birkat HaMazon, we discussed a couple of years ago, it's good to have the bread on the table, or not all the bread necessarily, but some bread, because you want the bracha, Birkat HaMazon, to have something that sort of takes it, that occupies it. The bread that's left on the table, you say Birkat HaMazon, that absorbs the bracha. But it says, Mutar dan ayat hamapab, marpeset, you go onto your porch, you go in the back, and you shake it out. Obachatzer, it says, Af shehad sipurim yavo achakach yochlu ma'priurim. Even if the birds are going to come. Now, you might not want a bunch of birds coming and pooping in your backyard, but halachically, it's not a problem. Even if normally he does it elsewhere, but for Shabbat, for convenience, it says, sof eno taruch it's not a problem to shake it outside, get all the crumbs, etc., out on the porch. Let's say I have people, what do they call it? A throw. You have like a blanket on the couch. All right, so the kids, they use it, they fight over it, and now it's Shabbat, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and you want to clean up a little bit. Are you allowed to fold this throw, knowing it's not really going to be used again till after Shabbat? Is that considered hachana? Is that considered preparing for after Shabbat? Or to fold it, it's not a problem? Huh? It's tidying up. Yeah, so we'll see this sometimes. Yes, sometimes no. But right, it says if you have a blanket or whatever it is, so you know what? Forget about the throw. The throw, yeah, tidying up. Let's say you have Shabbat morning. Right, you slept in your bed. You want to make your bed. Is it a problem to make the bed Shabbat morning? You're not going to be using that bed again till after Shabbat.
So you have an
You must have an Ashkenazi husband, right? Not my wife.
It's like it's part of your ritual. Like you always do that.
So yeah, it depends sort of when it is. If you know you're going to be lying down again, then for sure it's not a problem because you're not making it for after Shabbat. You're going to be lying down again. You're going to be taking a nap, as she said. If it's you took a nap and now it's 20 minutes before Shabbat's about to go out and there's no way you're going to be using it again, then it would be somewhat problematic and better not to be making the bed again if it's basically samuch to right before Shabbat's going out, because then it's very clear then that you're preparing for after Shabbat. That's why you're making the bed now, right? You're only going to be using it after Shabbat. It's not something that you can use on Shabbat. He points out, like we said, a throw, or for some reason, depending on the house, if the bed is very visible and everyone walks by the bed and they're going to be seeing this bed and it's not comfortable for you that this bed is just unmade, then it wouldn't be a problem to make a bed because that's sort of tidying up, that's cleaning up. But if it's upstairs, no one's going to see it, and Shabbat's coming out in 20 minutes and you just woke up or someone woke up, to make the bed, which is pretty clear that you're preparing for after Shabbat, he says is not so simple and better not to. He says, let's say you have Sukkot and in the Sukkah you finished your meal. Right? Now you want to take the dishes in. Right? Is that considered preparing? You're not going to be using these. He says no, because if you're living in this Sukkah, then the same way you tidy up in your house and you're cleaning up and you want it to be nice and neat, you're living in the Sukkah also. It's not a problem of hachana, of preparation, to clean up the things that are in the Sukkah. It says you're making a party Motzei Shabbat, so to start preparing is obviously problematic. Human nature is, especially if it's quite soon after Shabbat, that you want to start getting ready. Right? That's very clearly hachana. It says if you're lucky enough to have children and you want to get them ready for bed and they're putting on their pajamas. So let's say Shabbat goes out at 8 p.m. and it's 7:30, right? Are you allowed to tell your kids to put on their pajamas? You know there's no way. My son, who's 9 years old, it was like 9:30 on Shabbat. So I sent them upstairs to go to sleep. and the other kids had a bet how many times is he going to come down with different excuses. Right? It was either 3, 4, or 5 times. I think it was 5 times. You're making too much noise. I think I heard some noise. There might be monsters. You know, there's no such thing as monsters, right? Every excuse comes, right? They had a bet, literally a bet. How many times? You know your kid's not going to sleep before 8:30. Shabbat goes out at 8. Can you put on the pajamas at 7:30?
Yeah.
Or is that considered hachana? It says if every single night they put on pajamas at 7:30, then that's part of the routine. That's what they do at that time, even though you know they're not really going to go to sleep till after Shabbat. This is when they put on pajamas. You're not really preparing for Shabbat. You're putting on pajamas like you do every single night.
My daughter usually goes to sleep, when it's late, she always goes to sleep literally straight after Havana.
Okay.
So I always tell her to put it on the pajamas before. Is that a problem?
Based on what we're saying, if she always puts on her pajamas before...
Around 7, but I'm talking about 10 o'clock, 11.
You let her stay up.
Late.
How old is she?
She's 9, yeah.
Oh wow, okay. Baruch Hashem. Right?
She's the youngest, so she stays
Yeah,
up long.
the youngest gets away with...
She has to put on
The
pajamas.
youngest gets away with, right? My older kids are like, I don't understand. If we would talk like that, or if my daughter's like, when I was 7, you made a big deal that my bedtime was 7:07. And this guy doesn't even have a bedtime. It's like, what happened? I said to my older daughter, I'm like, I saw a study one time. They took 4 monkeys and they put them in the house, and if they went upstairs, they got electrocuted. Okay, obviously those monkeys knew, don't go upstairs. They brought in 4 new monkeys, and they wanted to see, would these new monkeys try going upstairs? Somehow, monkeys 1 through 4 conveyed the message to monkeys 5 through 8, don't go upstairs. They then took out monkeys 1 through 4, and they left 5 through 8, and they brought in another set of 4 monkeys 9 through 12. Right? Each time they switched, as long as there were monkeys that were there beforehand, even though they got up to monkeys like number 50 and 60, nobody went upstairs. Because somehow I said to my daughter, I'm like, I'm not calling you a monkey. But I figured if the older kids know, it's worth listening, and then the younger kids will hopefully not need the discipline that the older kids know. I don't think it's a problem because you're not preparing for after Shabbat. If she was to fall asleep, you want her to be in her pajamas. Happens to be she's staying up for Havdalah, but you're putting on her pajamas because she's imminently going to sleep. When it's going to be, it happens to be, you're waiting for Havdalah. But I think if she fell asleep, she conked out, you want her in her pajamas. So she's putting on her pajamas before she goes to sleep. You're not saying, oh, I'm getting ready for after Shabbat. You know what I mean? If someone has a party and they start cleaning up the house because they know that they want everything to be right, that's very clear that they're doing it for after Shabbat. He says if somebody has a bunch of dishes, right, so obviously you're able to clean your dishes on Friday night if you're going to be using them Shabbat day. What if you use your dishes Shabbat day? Right, are you allowed to clean them?
It depends if you're always tidying up.
You're always tidying up. Let's say you don't need it for Sudash Lishit. Right? Then you can't. Why? Right. Let me ask you, what if they're just Shabbat dishes? So you're not really preparing for the week. You're preparing for next Shabbat. Right? If you have a set of Shabbat dishes, I'm not preparing for the week. Right? But he says also even to put them in the dishwasher. Obviously you're not putting on the dishwasher. But if you're putting them in the dishwasher, or right, if you put the dishes and you don't rinse them off a little bit, then it gets stuck and then it's much harder to clean. So you're not really preparing. Right? You're still going to be cleaning them after Shabbat. So you're able to put the water on a little bit so that they don't get caked up and stuck, etc. But you're not really preparing for after Shabbat. It says to put it in the dishwasher, and if you're literally preparing it so that once Shabbat goes out, you can turn the dishwasher on, it's problematic. If you just sort of rinse it off a little bit, put it in the dishwasher, knowing that it might need some more, you just want it out of the way. Or, this is how I always rinse it off a little bit, but you're not really preparing it to go in the dishwasher. I'm just getting it out of the way. I'm just putting it somewhere. I'm rinsing it off, but I'm not cleaning it. Then he says that wouldn't necessarily be a problem. Because it might be a little bit marid ayin, or you have certain kids like, oh, you're getting ready. You tell them, we're just getting it out of the way. We're putting it over here. You have a question?
I always thought it was, if it bothers you, like it's going to ruin your Shabbat.
So that ties back into what she was saying, tidying up. If always you're that type of person, very clean, OCD, whatever term you want to...
Fit that category.
What's that?
I think most people fit that category.
Wow, amazing.
You clean it
I
up.
invite you to my house. Right? We always, Baruch Hashem, have stacks Motzei Shabbat, and my girls dread it, right? I remember when I was in Koilo, so this rabbi came to speak to, it was a Koilo, Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz's Koilo, where they sort of train people to become rabbis. And this guy came from the OU. and he was talking about kashrut and different things. He says, someone calls you up and says, Rabbi, you need to know who you're talking to, because different people have different stringencies and different feelings. Different people have different financial statuses. He says, in my house, we have 4 dishwashers. All female. So it depends. If you're the type of person that you go crazy, that the dishes are just going to be stacked over there, then yeah, you're not preparing for after Shabbat. You're preparing for your sanity right now. You just can't look at the kitchen and it's overflowing, right? I always tell my wife, like, we have kids, like you can't. After you put them to sleep, then you can, if you want to start cleaning up every 2 minutes, you're going to go crazy. You can only put away the toys so often when you have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. Like, this is Baruch Hashem. But you're not necessarily preparing for after Shabbat. As you're saying, you're right. If it's bothering you, then you're doing it for now. It's not that you're doing it for after Shabbat, but if it's Shabbat's about to go out, then it's pretty clear you're doing it for after Shabbat. So this week's parasha, I think we might have discussed some of this, but we gave a very different answer. This week's parasha is actually quite loaded. This week's parasha, you have at the beginning, Aaron HaKohen lighting the menorah. You have the Chatzotzerot, the trumpets. You have Pesach Sheni. You have the Jewish people complaining. Right? At the end of the parasha, you have Moshe Rabbeinu, that Miriam speaks Lashon Hara, and she gets leprosy, and everybody has to wait for her. And they're by Har Sinai. And it's interesting, the Gemara's terminology, or Tosafot's terminology, that they run away from Har Sinai, Kitinok haboreach mibet hasefer, like a child running away from school. Right? 1,000 years ago, nothing's changed. The kids, they're running away from school. And the Pasuk says, we have the famous words that we put away the Torah, V'hi ben So'aron, V'yom Moshe, Kuma Hashem v'yafutzu avecha v'nisum samecha. And then it says, V'ya'am kimit onenim, the people are complaining. And it's bad in the eyes of God, and Hashem sends a fire and burns some people and burns the corner of the Machaneh. Moshe davens for them, and they named that place Tav'era. And then it says, Va'asafsuf asher bekirbo, hit'avu ta'ava. The Asafsuf, they desire the desire. What does that mean? They desire the desire. V'yashuvu v'yifku gam b'nei Yisrael. And who's the Asafsuf? Some will tell you it's the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav, it wasn't the Jewish people, but then, crying is infectious, complaining is infectious. Once they start crying, v'yifku gam b'nei Yisrael, the Jewish people also start to cry. V'yomru mi ya'achelenu basar. Who's going to give us meat? Zacharnu et hadaga. We remember the fish, asher nochal b'Mitzrayim, that we ate in Egypt. Chinam, there was loads. When the Nile overflowed, came with fish, and they had good fish. Kishuim, avatechim, the courgettes, the watermelons, the chatzir, the bitzelim, tashumim, the garlic, the onions, the good stuff. Va'ata, now nafshenu yevesha, our heart is dry, en kol bilti el-haman enenu. The only thing we have is this man. And then the Torah takes a pause in the story and says, by the way, this man they're complaining about, ve'aman kizer agadhu. Right? It was amazing, it was unbelievable. It was like a coriander seed, I think we mentioned in the past. That's where the term kugel comes from. Right? Where does kugel come from? Where does cholent come from? Right? How come there's a minhag to eat cholent? Shabbat, the Karaite said you're not allowed to have any hot food. Shabbat. So we go out of our way to make sure to have hot food. But the food's going to burn. So cholent is Old French for shulen, which is slow cook. Right? That's where the term comes from. What about kugel? It's not really kugel. It's kigel. Says Rashi over here. You have the man was like a coriander seed. That's the pasuk. Says Rashi, the coriander seed. That what was it? It was igul. It was round. Right. So the reason it's called kugel, it's really ki igul. It's supposed to be round. Ironically, for sure in this country, they're all square or rectangle. Right? In Israel, you get the big round ones, the Yerushalmi, etc. Right? The big, yeah. But otherwise, it really comes from this term, ki igul. Right? Kezer agad, igul, kidloach, says Rashi. Round. Okay. They're complaining about the man special. Shatu ha'am v'laktu tachanu b'rekayim tachum v'chav v'shu paru v'asu oto ugot v'yat ta'amok etam l'ashad ha'shemen. It had the unbelievable taste. Whatever you wanted, it was great. ובדרך הטל על המחנה לילה ירד המן עליו, and the man fell down every night. וישמע משה את העם בוכה למשפחותיו. Moshe Rabbeinu hears the people crying, לממשפחותיו. What does it mean, לממשפחותיv? To their families. What does that mean? Our rabbis point out, one explanation is, they started crying. We just got the Torah. We were just by Har Sinai. We got all these rules. And now there's all these people we aren't allowed to marry. We're not allowed to marry a sibling. You're not allowed to marry an aunt. You're not allowed to. There's all these people you're not allowed to marry. Right. That's what they're crying about. But again, once people are complaining, they find things to complain about. And Moshe hears this. Hashem was very upset. They had just had the fire. They just had Tav'era. They just got punished. And they're still complaining. If I was to ask you, who's the greatest leader of all time? Moshe Rabbeinu. What's one of the most important qualities of a leader? Patience. To deal with frustrating people. V'yomer Moshe Hashem, Lama hare'ot ala avdecha? Why did you do bad to your servant? Lama ze lo matzati chen beinecha? Why don't I find favor in your eyes? L'sumit masa kol ha'am hazeh alai. That you put the weight of this nation on me. Ha'anochi ariti et kol ha'am hazeh. Was I pregnant with all these people? That what? Anochi latiu, did I give birth to them? Ki tomar elai se'eu bechekecha, carry these people in your bosom, kasher yareha omenet hayonek, the same way a mother nurses the baby. Allah adama sheshval avatenu, that you want me to take them to the land that our forefathers have promised. Ma'ayin li basar latet lechol ha'am hazeh. Do I have meat for millions of people? Where do I have meat to feed everybody? Ki yifku alai lemor tzalanu basar v'nochi elah. They're coming crying to me. We need meat. Where's the meat? Give us meat. We could eat. I can't take care of these people by myself. Shocking words. And if you're going to do this to me, hargeni naharog. Go ahead, just kill me. Moshe Rabbeinu, the ultimate leader, what does he come to Moshe Hashem and say? Just kill me. I can't deal with these people. They're impossible. So what does Hashem say? Okay, don't worry about it. Pick 70 zekenim, and they will help you. What are the people crying about? What do they want? What does Hashem say? I'll give you zekenim. How is that going to solve the meat crisis? The people are crying, they don't have meat. We remember the good times, we had fish. Right? They're not asking for fish, they're asking for meat, but okay. Right? They had animals, so they had an option of having meat. Right? But okay. Why does Moshe get so upset? What does it mean they desire to desire? What does it mean that Moshe is told, get elders? So in the past we discussed and we gave a whole shiur all about the man and the texture of the man and the location of the man and the instant punishment that Jewish people got. That was a class that we gave a couple years ago. Today I'd like to propose another idea. I heard from a Rabbi Yedid in New York that I think is very practical. What does it mean? Hit avu ta'ava, they desire to desire. Right. We as human beings are born with a natural desire. We have a natural desire for food. We have a natural desire for sleep. We have a natural desire for kavod. We want acknowledgement. It's human nature. Right. The kid's 2 years old, he's in the park, he goes down the slide. If you're not watching, oy vavoy. Right? They scream, they cry, well, you didn't watch me, you didn't see me. They're 2 years old, but they want acknowledgement. I went down the slide all by myself. Right? There's a certain desire we all have for food, and then there's desires that we create. Nobody's born with a natural desire for alcohol. Nobody's born with a natural desire for smoking, for gambling. Some people think they are, but no one's born with a natural desire for gambling. What happens? We create these desires. Why? Why is Moshe Rabbeinu so upset? The Jewish people desire to desire. Every single person is sent down here with a mission. Every single person is sent to this world with certain talents. When do we feel accomplished? When do we feel good about ourselves? When we're fulfilling our mission. And at different stages of your life, the mission's different. When we're kids, our mission is to do well in school, and to work on our midot, and to be a mensch, and to volunteer. And you have some kids, they're 14, 15, 16, 17, and they start drinking, or they start smoking. Why do they start smoking? Why do they start drinking? Chances are they're not doing well in school. They realize, consciously or subconsciously, they're not fulfilling their purpose. Because their purpose at this stage of life is to do well in school. And if you're not fulfilling your purpose, you don't feel good about yourself. And then you need to fill the void. There's a void. So we need to fill the void. What do we do to fill the void? We try and get stuff. We try and fill that void with things. So when someone's younger, it might be smoking. It might be drinking. It might be gambling. That doesn't work for you. Then you need to, or it works temporarily, then what needs to happen? People go to drugs. Why? Because, now, Baruch Hashem, I don't think anybody in this room is in that boat. But there's other voids that we might fill as we get older. Right? When it comes to fashion. Right? Certain people, what voids do they need to fill? They need to fill the void with Chanel and Louboutin and Gucci. You can tell my wife has expensive taste. Right. Now, there's nothing wrong with having those things, don't get me wrong. But if the only reason you're doing that is to fill the void, it might be temporary. But at a certain stage, you're going to want more because you're still not fulfilling your purpose. Human nature is we want to connect to something greater than us. Right? We want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why is it that people get all excited when they meet a celebrity? I was telling my kids, I was walking last week, I did a lunch and learn in town, and I was walking to Rubens to meet somebody, and I was walking by Selfridges, and I saw the comedian Michael McIntyre, like, oh, he's so funny. I'm like, yeah, I said to him, oh, thank you so much for all your good work. Okay. What do most people do when they see a celebrity? Take a selfie. My kids were like, you didn't take a selfie? I'm like, what would I do with this? Am I going to frame it? They're like, no, that's not cool. I'm like, so why do I need a selfie? So you can show people. I'm like, do you not believe me? Would I make that up? What do I need a selfie for? Why do we get so excited when we meet a celebrity or you meet a ball player? Why do we get excited? Everybody. Why do we get excited? Because Hashem gave us a natural desire to connect to something bigger than we are, which is Hashem. But the Yetzer Hara doesn't want us to work to connect to. People go to a concert, right? Wembley Stadium, 80,000 people. It's amazing. It's not only about the singer. What's it about? The experience of being in the stadium with all these people, and you're part of something huge and massive and amazing. And Hashem gave us that desire. But it's supposed to be. I know people, they go to Uman Rosh Hashanah. Wow, we were in an airplane hangar. There was 10,000 people. It's the same thing. Now again, you're using it for good maybe. But it's this natural desire of connecting to something bigger than we are. Hashem gives us a desire to want to accomplish. So either we can figure out what's our mission at different stages. Like we said, when you're a kid, it's to do well in school and to work on yourself. And you get older, if you're lucky enough to be married and to have kids, it might be focusing on the family. Right? For a man, human nature is, he wants to be married and provide for his family. And if the man's not doing that, then he doesn't feel good about himself. And then he's trying to fill the void. But pretty much every man, we live in a society where they're trying to convince you don't need to be married. And you don't need to have kids. You need to only worry about yourself. And then you don't even really have a purpose. Or you get to a stage in your career where you've done it, and then what? So now what's your purpose? But if you understand my purpose is to learn and to grow and to volunteer, you feel good about yourself. And different stages of life, it's important to stop and assess. All right, I'm up to here. What am I doing with my time? How am I making sure that I'm maximizing my potential that I'm accomplishing? The Jewish people, they're in the Midbar. And they come to Moshe Rabbeinu, we want meat. Why does Hashem say, oh, no problem, we'll give you Shivim Zkenim? Are the Zkenim going to give them meat? No. It was never about the meat. It's about filling the void. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I don't understand these people. Are they babies? Babies don't understand what life's about. Children, they're narcissistic, self-centered, and we're all born that way. But as we mature, what's our job? To start thinking of others, doing for others, understanding that Hashem sent us here with a purpose, and this is what I'm going to do to accomplish my purpose and fulfill my mission. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I can't deal with these people. They're a bunch of babies. Hashem says, I'll get you some more help. I'll get you some more rabbis. I'll get you the shivim zikeni, because it's not about the meat. When you sit with someone and they're constantly complaining, right? I was talking to somebody, and they were saying, I'm going crazy from the weather. I'm going crazy from the weather. It's so great. The person's not happy in their life. And I said, you can't worry about things you can't control. Things you can't control, you can't let control you. You can't control the weather. You can't control how this neighbor or this friend or this cousin or whoever it might be is going to act. I always tell my kids, you can't control how others act. You can only control how you react. People are complicated. Right? Women, I think, more so than men, because they're always thinking much more. I was at a party, and there was this little baby, 5 months old, and they were passing around the baby. All the women were very excited, and they're like, look how happy he is. And the mom goes, yeah, I just fed him. He had a nice nap. I'm like, all men are the same. Doesn't matter how old we are. It could be 5 months, 5 years, 55 years. The man is fed, and he had a good nap. He's good. Very simple, not so complicated. Right? We want to feel accomplished. Moshe Rabbeinu says, these people how do they have a void? They're looking for meat. They have meat. The man is amazing. They're complaining about family. They can't marry their family. It's not when you have a million excuses, chances are it's none of those. If you sit down and say, I want this for this reason, and you're very clear, but when you have 10 reasons why you think it's the wrong thing, chances are none of those are the reason. There's a void we look to fill. Some people fill that void with jewelry. Some people fill that void with travel. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with jewelry or travel. I'm not saying that. Enjoy it, 1,000,000%. But it can't be that's the way you fill your void because you don't feel accomplished. That's what you do. You need a nice break. That's what you do. You got a gift, Baruch Hashem. Sometimes you treat yourself. I tell my wife, I don't know what you want. Just let me know, and don't give hints. I don't know. Just tell me. Right? Baruch Hashem. But it can't be that's the only way we feel good about ourselves. Is only when we travel, and our whole life is about planning the next trip. And it's all about the trip, and you go on the trip, and you have to plan the next. Enjoy the trips. Nothing wrong with trips. But it can't be that's how you're filling your life's happiness. You need to understand you have a purpose. Moshe Rabbeinu says, these people are complaining about the most ridiculous things. They have the manna, they're complaining about the meat. Hashem says, you're right. They're acting like babies. We need to get them more teachers to explain to them Torah and life. Yes?
How can you help a child control his void? For example, you have a child that's meant to be doing well in school, and because they're not doing well in school, they have a void. They feel different. But the child is struggling through no fault of their own. They have learning difficulties. But how do you help a child fulfill his void so that he doesn't get to
the stage where he's
stuff like that?
So every child has something they enjoy, and even if they have some learning difficulties, the bar maybe needs to be set lower. But once they reach whatever they're reaching, you need to celebrate how amazing it is that they did this. Their friends might be up here, and it doesn't matter. You have to teach the kid. Everyone has different strengths. Everyone has different weaknesses. I'm not comparing you to anybody else, right? I have 2 daughters. My older daughter is quite academic. The younger one, not as much so. I said to I will never compare you to her. That's her. She's her. She's you, right? My younger daughter, she's in menorah. So last year, they said to her, I don't know what this means. Maybe you do more than me. Like, GCSEs 8, 9 is very good. They said to her, instead of doing the regular course, you should do the foundation course in Hebrew, and then we think you'll get a 4, which I think is like a D-, right? It's a pass. It's F+, right? It's barely, right? So I said to her, why don't you just drop it? She's like, because the school said I have to. I said, I'll speak to them. I think just drop it. She's like, but they say it's very important to know a language. I'm like, let me speak to them. Right. Why? Because she's at a 4, she's not going to speak Hebrew. She doesn't know anything, right? She feels nebuch because everybody else is getting 6, 7, 8s, and 9s. She doesn't feel good about herself. So I said to her, you have amazing strengths. You're very talented. Take care of the baby, unbelievable. You do the cooking. In these other classes, you're getting 6 and 7s and 8s, right? So this specific languages isn't your thing. Don't worry about it. What the school wants, I don't care what the school wants. I have to worry about my kids' self-confidence and long term. So for her, that's not success. Focus on how she's amazing at cooking. Focus on how this child he plays video games, unbelievable. He's the best video game guy. Right? Find something that they can feel good about themselves. That doesn't mean that they don't do academics. That doesn't mean that they don't do the best they can in certain areas. And when they accomplish, you get them maybe a private, if you could afford it, a private person. And you say, I'm so proud of you. You finished this whole page of Gemara. You did this whole thing. You're not, whatever the age you're at. You read the Aleph Beis. You know how to read Rashi. Unbelievable. But always say, I'm not going to compare you to anybody else, to your siblings. You got to be the best you that you can be. And hopefully you help the child know what they're good at. And I don't want to go off tangent too much, but success, we've discussed in the past, is not just academics. Teach our kids. When we talk about Avraham Avinu, was Avraham Avinu head boy? No. The only story I know about Avraham Avinu is when his father says, Abe, watch the shop. He breaks all the idols, puts the hammer in the big one's hand and says, I don't know, speak to the big guy. Right? Doesn't sound like head boy material to me. Sounds like a wise guy. Right? But he's Avraham Avinu. Teach our kids. Chesed, one of the kindest people I know. That's Avraham Avinu. I saw how you were mevater when your other friend or your sister. That's Rachel Imenu. Teach our kids that success is Yaakov Avinu. Titen emet liYaakov. Right? I think we mentioned in the past. I was not very studious as a kid. Right? I remember when I was in camp in America. Camp, you have sleepaway camp, 8 weeks, and you're going back to the 90s. And they get on the microphone to the whole camp. Moshe Levy, please come to the office. I was like, I didn't do it. I remember making trouble today. Okay. I come to the office, I'm like, what did I do this time? Like, no, your mother's on the phone. I'm like, hey, Mom. She's like, I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, everything's good. I have enough money. She's like, I got a postcard, right, in the mail. I said, really? I don't remember sending one. She's like, Talmud HaShavua, student of the week. I'm like, how about that? She goes, did you steal it from the office? Or pay off the Rebbe? So I started laughing. I'm like, Mom, there's only 4 guys in our group. We have the worst group. Everyone's already got it twice. And the Rebbe's like, Levy, just show up 3 times, I'll give it to you, right? I wasn't a very good student, and when something happens, I was experienced enough to not get caught. They didn't have CCTV in my day, right? So if something goes wrong, they call in the usual suspects. Right? Usual suspects. So something happens, and they'd call me, and Levy, what happened over here? I'm like, I have no idea. I was outside playing ball. I don't know. Right? If I tell the truth and say, yeah, it was me, I'm very sorry, what happens to me? Suspended, expelled. If I say, I don't know what you're talking about, and I lie, what happens to me? Nothing. So what did I do every time? I lied. The system taught me to lie. I teach my kids, you tell the truth, you don't get punished. Or maybe a small punishment instead of a big punishment. You don't tell the truth. Oy, boy. Right? I want my kids to know success is honesty. Success is chesed. If you're academic, great. And if you're not, sad. Yeah, find a way of teaching the kid they're successful in what it is they're doing, in midot, or even in video games, or running, or whatever it might be. Every kid has something they enjoy. I was walking home from shul, my next door neighbor, the kid's 15, right? And he's talking to me about quantum physics and aliens and universe, and I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about, right? Every kid has their thing that they really love and they're very into, and tell them how they're amazing at that. You know what I mean? But the void needs to be filled. Ideally, it's filled with accomplishing what you need to be accomplishing. And what we're saying is, they're accomplishing. Chesed is accomplishing. Emet is accomplishing. Being mevater is accomplishing from the Torah's perspective. If you're also good at academics, machaber, and if not, teach your kid. We do our best, but this isn't the end-all be-all. Someone sent me a clip from my Rabbi Berkowitz, and there was a Chinuch seminar, and someone asked him, he said, you know, nowadays, especially in America, a lot of rabbanim and teachers, they try and get the kids to take medicine, Ritalin, etc. What's your opinion? And he said, who the most successful business people quite often? I can tell you from Chazak. We sit down for meetings. I would say 80% of our biggest donors, ADHD to the max. You're trying to sit there, they're busy, you're trying to talk to them for 5 minutes, and they're all over the place. These guys are multimillionaires. Because my Rebbe was saying, quite often, who's the most successful in life? It's the people that are ADHD, and they're busy, and they're doing, and they're running, and they're accomplishing, and they're buying, and they're selling. They're very successful. And what do you want to do? You want to, because it's easier for the teacher, the Rebbe, you want to give them some medicine? Again, certain kids need it. Mamash need it. But it's much easier for the teacher, the rabbi, to just give the medicine. They have a kid who's 16, 17, and says, I really want to sit and learn, and I just can't concentrate. and the medicine will help me. It's a different story. But a kid who's 8 years old, 9, 10 years old, it's definitely not your go-to. It's not the first choice or the second choice you're trying. You want the kid to be successful. Now, can everybody sit? Is everyone going to be, that type of student? No, not everybody's academic, but you need to know your strengths, know your children, and try and make sure that you accentuate what they are good at. And again, talk about the midot as well. But back to our parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu is upset. They're complaining about the meat. Are they babies? I'm supposed to nurse them? How long? At a certain point, they're supposed to grow. They saw the splitting of the sea. They saw the 10 plagues. They heard you speak at Har Sinai. Now we got the Torah, and we're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. And they're crying, literally crying, about families, members that they can't marry. They're crying about meat when they have the man. How am I supposed to deal with these people? And Hashem says, you're right. We need to have more education as to what life's about. We need to pick the elders, and they will be able, from life experience and from connecting through Torah, to teach the people. Yes, that void, this is how you fill the void. You accomplish your purpose. And again, it changes. Certain people at the beginning, when their kids are younger, that's their purpose. It's the kids. And then the kids are now out of the school, and they have most of the day available from 9:30 till 3:30. And again, there's things you need to take care of, and you're busy. What am I coming? Am I coming to shiurim? Am I volunteering? Am I helping? What am I doing? A woman came to me last week. She said, I spend most of my day, I have 2 elderly parents that both have Alzheimer's. That's how I spend most of my day. So what am I really supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to be accomplishing? I said, there's one of the most amazing people here in London. He's a guy called Benny Grossman. Right? For many years wasn't able to have children. Baruch Hashem had a child, but he knew what it meant to not have children, so he started an organization called Chana. Right? The one child he had was special needs. So he started an organization called Kef. I said, most people wouldn't know where to start. He, Baruch Hashem, took his challenges and has helped thousands of people. It's unbelievable. I said, it could be there's other people now, as Baruch Hashem, people are living longer, and other people might have Alzheimer's, and they don't know where to start. They don't know who the doctors are. They don't know how, what, where, why, when. If you have a lot of experience, I'm not saying you need to start an organization. Let people know you're going through this, you have this. I'm here to help. Maybe that's at this stage, what you need to focus on your parents, but because that's what you're doing, you're in that mindset, and everybody has different things that it's just a matter of saying, hey, I have this ability right now, I have this knowledge right now, how can I use this to help the community? Everybody has a tachlis. And if we're not accomplishing, then we need to fill the void. And we go shopping, and we travel. Again, enjoy the traveling, enjoy the shopping, as long as it's not only there because you're not really happy and you're just trying to fill the void. Because you might fill it with this thing that you just got, and then 2 weeks later or 2 months later, again, the void's going to be there. We need to be accomplishing. Moshe Rabbeinu was told, this is what we need to do. Get the elders. And the elders will be able to teach the people. You're right, one person isn't enough. And maybe you need more relationships. And he's one person day in, day out, it's too much. It's the ultimate, he got it directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The elders aren't on that level. Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai Yoshua has Kenim. You have this Kenim, the twice removed. It's not the same as Moshe who got it from Hashem directly, but everybody needs to have someone they can connect to, they can speak to, that's helping them understand their purpose and making sure that that void is filled. We have to make sure that we continue to do this and spread the word and make sure that people are accomplishing and make sure that we know what our purpose is at our stage of life. And am I maximizing it?
Why did they feel such a void when they were with Hashem? They've been through the Nissim.
Great question. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was. You grow up in Egypt or in England, and you have a certain way of looking at the world and a certain culture. They've only been out of Egypt for a year. Human nature, and they just got the Torah. And let's be honest and blunt, all these rules, it's heavy. You can't speak Lashon Hara. You can't do all the. You have to dress a certain way. You have to act a certain. Now, in a way, it was certainly easy. They don't have to worry about Parnasah, but they know they're about to go into Israel, and they know they're going to live a normal existence. This was the parasha before the spies. They think we're going in a week. We're about to go. We're going to have to win these wars. We're going to have to go back to normal life. We don't even know what normal life is because we were slaves for hundreds of years. What is it? I don't even know where to start. Imagine somebody who works in a certain job their whole life, and now, where do I even begin? It's overwhelming. It's scary, right? In our minds, to some extent, sometimes we're our own worst enemies. We build up scenarios, and we get all worried, and we worry about this, and what if that, and how good, and my child this, and my husband that. And it can be very overwhelming, and we need it's more about where they were going than where they were right now,
So
I
there's
think.
so many changes.
Yeah.
They weren't sure what their time
Yeah, 100%. We're not going to be slaves. We have all these rules. I don't know, kosher, this thing. You gotta, I mean, it's heavy. It's a lot. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And I got to cook, and I got to clean, and I got that, and Hashem wants it. You just got a whole new rule book of life. It can be very overwhelming. That's what we said. Ki tinoka boreach mibet hasefer. Moshe Rabbeinu says, after having seen everything you saw, you should be mature enough and old enough to appreciate that. Don't worry, Hashem will take care of you, and He gave you the strength, and He's going to help you. But human nature is you get nervous, you get overwhelmed. We know our circles, we know Hashem's there, but even still, Chas Shalom, there's the challenge. It can be overwhelming. I saw someone this morning lost a parent 6 weeks ago. I'm like, how's it going? Miserable. I said, that's not an okay answer. Overwhelming, frustrating, challenging, miserable. No such thing as miserable. You know what I mean? I said, there's times where it's easier, times where it's harder. Right? But it's never miserable. It's never depressing. Right? These words, again, maybe we might define them differently. The way I define miserable, you define miserable might be too different. To me, miserable is like, I don't even want to get out of bed in the morning and I just can't. You know what I mean? But it's not easy, but we know Hashem has a plan. Hashem gives the koach. Hashem decided this is what was necessary at the time. And we have to do our best to keep going. And we'll reach a stage. But if you're accomplishing your purpose, then that doesn't mean you forget. You're used to every morning calling this parent, and now they're not there, and then you wish they could be there. And you have a simcha. And they would have loved being there by the simcha. It's so challenging. Agree. But miserable? You can't live a life of miserable. Hashem doesn't want us being miserable. He gives us challenges, but life can never be miserable. You know what I mean? Sometimes the words we use has ramifications on us and the way we think. So we need to do our best to think positive. If they're challenging times, yeah, but it's challenging. There's ups and downs. My wife was saying, she was talking to her brother, and she was like, I'm so busy. And he goes, Baruch Hashem, I know people that wish they were busy. So as much as we complain it's so busy, if you're sitting at home twiddling your thumbs, you'd be depressed, right? Miserable. So you got to, Baruch Hashem that we're busy, and Baruch Hashem that we're lucky enough that we have a husband that wants ABCD, and we have children that are, there's people that are desperate to have children, people that are desperate to have a husband. So it's a matter of perspective and understanding. This is my mission right now. They were overwhelmed or whatever it is, they thought it's too much, and that how am I supposed to fill this void? I don't know where to start even. Have some rabbis, have some rebbitzins, have some teachers, have the shivim zekenim, and we can help you work it through it. That's basically, because it was never about to meet. And we need to do our best. I apologize, I need to run. We need to do our best to make sure that we understand our purpose, that we're filling the void the right way by accomplishing, connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, celebrities and ball players and shtuyot. Right? It's cool, but because the Yetzer Hara misdirects, right? We have a wanting to accomplish. So the Yetzer Hara, even that can sometimes, we have a yearning to accomplish in Torah and mitzvot. But the Yetzer Hara, I have an aunt, passed away a few years ago. She was the magnet lady. She was on Oprah Winfrey. She lived in Nevada. Hundreds of thousands of magnets. People would travel over the world. They'd bring her a present. I got you a magnet. Right? Her whole basement, wall to wall, metal, magnets. It's cute. It's nice. Very good. But that's her biggest accomplishment in life. Hashem wants us to accomplish. And the Yetzer Hara there's nothing wrong with having a beautiful collection of whatever it might be. But Yetzer Hara can sort of say, oh yeah, you're accomplishing. Don't worry about Torah mitzvot. Don't worry about all these things that you really need to work on. You have this accomplishment. And again, it's a nice accomplishment. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you're also accomplishing your purpose. I don't think that when she gets upstairs, or when she got upstairs, Hashem said, amazing, I sent you down to be the magnet lady, and you did it. Right? There's nothing wrong with being the magnet lady. It's great. But I don't think, the tachlis, I could be wrong. I don't think she's going to get upstairs and that's her tachlis. It's cute, it's nice, it's fun. If she said, I was doing this and I'm using it to help the community and I'm getting people and okay. But that's not usually when people have hobbies. Nice, cute, but we like to kill time. No, you need to be maximizing it and fulfilling our potential. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn over here from, I was going to discuss Pesach Sheni, we ran out of time, right? From Moshe Rabbeinu, from the people complaining. We need to make sure we're maximizing our potential, filling the void in the right way. And if we do that, then we'll truly be happy. Chas v'shalom not, then you can never be happy because you're constantly just trying to fill the void with more and more stuff. Stuff comes and goes. But accomplishing our purpose, that's the best thing we can possibly do. Amen, amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.